Yeah. Hello, Maggie. Maggie Cunningham it says, but I know you as Magin Rose, like the name of your website,
Yes.
which inspired me so much by getting a rune reading of my birth runes. And on your website, there's also like a section um, about sun runes, which is also like a soul purpose. And since I work with the life threads and just publish my book about the Norns and how to weave consciously our destiny by holding our destiny threads, I'm really looking forward to speak to you because you inspired me so much with your work.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so you are right. My name is Maggie, but my website is maginrose.com, and it's been available for 10 years now. And I actually started my work with runic astrology about a year before I launched the site, whereas I've been working with the runes for probably longer than I said, about 25 years now. So I found them on the bookshelf of my local bookshop when I was a teenager, and I just sort of felt this tingling in my body. I was just like, oh, what's that? And it really felt to me as if I was reading symbols that were actually already written inside me, if that makes sense. I was like, oh, those are already in me. So obviously I had to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
And started my journey with the runes, and that was probably my first ever encounter with a system of spirituality or magic beyond what I'd been brought up in. But it felt to me as if I was coming home when I found them. And so I worked with them for many years, and I trained in the Wiccan tradition and I still continue to work in a sort of coven-like witchcraft-like group at the moment. And I've trained in shamanic healing and Reiki and pretty much every single form of sort of spiritual, magical, mystical tradition that I could lay my hands on throughout my life. But the runes are always, to me, the place where I come. They're always where I come to find myself again. And I discovered the work of Nigel Pennick, who has done his wonderful book on runic astrology. And I started to work through the Wheel of the Year with the runes of the Elder Futhark, so the 24 runes. And I just felt that flow and that connection through the Wheel of the Year, working in that way. So then I started to go a lot deeper with the rune work and to really explore runic astrology and to look at birth runes. So I used Nigel Pennick's system, and I did work with spiritual work with the Norns and with the goddess Freya and the goddess Frigga as well, to really sort of try and understand what I could do with this and how that all worked. And so they wove this all together for me. They sort of explained to me how it worked, and the bits that were missing for me, because it's an incomplete system. We don't have a full understanding of what a astrological tradition from Northern Europe would have looked like. We've got hints that there might have been one and what it might have been like, but we don't have a sort of a full system as is the case in other traditions. So it has been a question of researching and a lot of journeying work with the Norns and with Frigga. Every now and then they would say to me, do you really want to do this? This is quite big. And I'd be like, okay, let's carry on. And I love the work, and it just takes me deeper and deeper. And I realized this really recently, Erica, and I was just like, oh, when I found this out. And this is when I just went, this is just it. This is me now for my life. When I used to teach shamanic practice, I taught with a lady called Kay Gillard, who is a phenomenal shamanic practitioner. and we developed a system of shamanic training that was, the patrons were the Norns. So we did a lot of weaving and sort of cord cutting and past life work with the people that we were teaching and the people that we were working with. And we used to do a soul song workshop with people so they could come and discover their soul song.
Oh, beautiful.
Lovely, just wonderful work. And I had never done this before, and Kay taught me the technique for doing this. So I went and discovered my soul song before, obviously started to teach other people. And I was given a chant, like just a word to sing over and over again, which I thought at the time that was one of those power words that doesn't really mean very much. I looked it up, it's Ellery. I looked it up and it was a Welsh river. And I was like, okay, I can go with that. It's a Welsh river, that's fine. And I sing that power song to myself quite a lot. You know, it's there in the back of my mind when I want to find myself in center. And for some reason, it didn't occur to me until literally this year that that word is made up of my birth runes, which I didn't know. I hadn't started my work on the birth runes when we were doing the power song workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, oh, it's not a Welsh river. It was my birth runes plus the rune at the end for the self. And that was sort of for me the affirmation that I needed to say this is really important. This is really important work. That helping people to find a connection with a small number of runes that are personally powerful for them is such a powerful way in to rune practice. So for some people, then maybe not doing work with all 24 runes, they're not using them for divination or for healing or for magical purposes. They're using them to simply to find themselves and to be more in flow and alignment with the universe. And so I love the fact that you can sing the runes and you can write the runes and you can eat the runes and you can feel the runes. There's so many different ways that you can connect in and create a practice for yourself around birth runes. Does that that was quite a long rendition of my journey with the birth runes.
Oh, it's my son in the background. Sammy, ist alles okay? Bitte nicht so laut, ich interviewe gerade. Oh, he's got something. I have to have a look. Just a second.
That's fine. How old is
he? Sorry, my son, he hurt his finger and fell down, but it's not that bad. So
will you be okay?
We can continue. He's almost 11. Will be 11 in 2 months.
Oh, yes. No, I know. My sons are 5 and 1. So no, 5 and 2.
Oh, they're really small.
Yeah. Felix was 2 last week. I forget.
Oh, then they're really small.
They are. They're downstairs with their dad, but they're doing fine. Oh, well, I hope he's okay. Oh,
He's fine. He's okay. It's okay. Yeah, but we were with the birth runes.
Yes.
And obviously it's such a deep treasure. It's like in Norse, the Urtbrunnen is the well of endless wisdom. But for me, it was totally new coming to your website, and I have had this reading of the birth runes. And you were inspired from Nigel Panic, you said, and the runic astrology book, which I got now as well. It's very, very interesting. Can you maybe speak particularly about these birth runes, and how can you draw them for the people?
So the birth runes, for me, if you imagine that at the time of a person's birth, we have the runic wheel that is moving around. It's an energetic wheel. I always imagine that Odin set it in place when he had his initiation on the world tree, and he brought forth the runes, and you hear about him emitting this roaring sound. And I always imagine this like wave of sound going out across all of the worlds at that point. And this sort of energetic structure is formed through that. So it's like, I always imagine everything's the same after Odin's experience on the world tree, but nothing is the same, because he's created these forms. He's created them, he's birthed them in some way, he's discovered them, and he's set them in place amongst all of the worlds. So we have the runic wheel that is in motion around the earth, or it's in motion around any conscious being, has the runic wheel is around them. And the planets are then moving through that runic wheel. And I always imagine it's like they're chiming, because they have their own vibration, they have their own song. And each rune has its own song. And so at the time that the planet moves into each rune sphere, the song changes. So at the point that you were born, there was a song that was utterly unique to you, totally unique to you, that we can re-find and bring ourselves back into center through understanding it. So understanding like where the sun was. So as soon as Chariot is the position of the sun, which rune was the sun in? And that's, for me, always the first of those birth runes. And I find that the powerful birth runes that I work with and offer on my site at the moment are your sun rune, seen as Chariot, your moon rune, which is Mani's Chariot, your earth rune, which is the rune that was on the horizon of the earth. It was on the horizon at the time that you were born, and your birth hour. Now, the way that I see it is that you had that song that was singing. And the work that I've done with the Norns, they have shown me that when you're born, you have your own spirit clan around you. Your mother has her Disia circle, her circle of female ancestral spirits and spirit guides and guardians who are around witnessing and holding the space when you're born. And what the Norns showed me was not Urdhva school, but a Norn, a sort of, let's call her a lesser Norn, still important, one of their messengers, comes to that place, that birthing place. And she and the Disir whisper to the birthing mother to help her through the labor and to select the perfect birth hour for you, that's going to really sort of help to bring all of the rest of your birth runes together, so that you're in your best possible self, the best song that could be there for you, so that you can realize your soul purpose comes through your birth hour. And they then weave a tapestry. And there's a legend of Helgi, who was a great hero, and there's the legend tells of golden threads being woven at the time of his birth that are then sort of fixed into place. And I see that as being your tapestry. So that's the echo, or the fixed moment of your song. So the tapestry is woven based on the song that was created, and then you have your birth runes. So the birth runes are really important. They're really important fixed threads within your soul tapestry. Others might change, through your life. Obviously, there's loads of other threads that come in to create who you are. But working with your birth runes brings you back to, what's my original motif? So with your sun rune, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I here to do? With my earth rune, where are my strengths? What are the things that I can bring to the world, the gifts that I have that are going to make me able to practically embody my purpose? With your lunar rune, what is it that I desire? What is it that's going to fulfill me and make me whole? And then the birth hour for me is a little bit of a mix. Sometimes it's about supporting those three other runes, and sometimes it's more about like there's a karmic past life influence sometimes comes in. If there's something that you haven't previously achieved in a past life, or a lesson that you need to learn, or healing that you need to undertake through this lifetime, the birth hour rune often happens with that. So those are the hero makers that I work with, and there are the planets as well also provide what I call the soul singers. There's a little melody behind you of the song, which I'm still working on that. So I'm not working with other people on that, because you want to know what's happening for you before you share that with others. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that work too. So for me, that's what the birth runes are about. Therefore,
I love that so much. This combination of mysticism, but also like our physical gifts, which we came here with, and yes, I can recommend it more than enough. People can book a session with you to discover the birth runes on the website, and the sun rune, for example, they can find out for free if they go on your website, maginrose.com.
Yes, so at the moment the site's under development, so you can go and you can find out what your sun rune is, and you can look at your birth hour as well. And I do give information about how you can do some calculations, because there's a simple way of doing it, similar to anyone who's familiar with the zodiac astrology. You've got the cusp, so every year the symbol changes ever so slightly. The timing of when the zodiac, or when the runic month starts. So I give these are the normal dates, and I also show how you can go and look it up yourself if you want to be absolutely sure if you're in one of those borderline days. So that's available. Over the coming months, I'm looking to provide some slightly different offerings, so that people can just find out about their sun rune, and they can get a more detailed report about that. So that will be coming. I'm giving you a secret preview now of what's coming.
Great.
Not available yet, but it will be there. So at the moment, you can order a birth runes report that I send to you, which I will do the calculations for you of those 4 hero makers, plus a little bit more information about your lunar runes. Or you can do that and have a combination with an oracle, which is a spoken oracle, which I do, and I look at how they all combine together, and that's more like a rune reading. It's more like having somebody do a reading for you of what those runes mean and how they work together. So that's what's available on the website at the moment. It will be changing over time, just because I want to give people as many ways as possible of working with and accessing their birth runes, because you can go quite deep into each one. That's the plan.
Well, the well of wisdom is boundless.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can take it as far as you want to. My aim is to help people to just really get that connection, so that they feel confident and they can journey with their own birth runes as far as they feel called to do.
Great. So we are looking forward to discover more how it's developing now, work and your website. And so I'm definitely very curious.
I'm also doing some work at the moment to launch a little audio cast channel. It's called the Runic Astrology Hearth Space, and that will be coming in the next month, where people can join. It doesn't cost very much, and that's much more about what's happening with the runes at the current time within where are the planets, what are they doing, which rune song is singing right now. That's more about the here and the now. So that's coming too.
fantastic. So many treasures.
Exciting times.
Very, very exciting. And what I also would love to find out more about your experience with the Norns, since they were so important in my path, what I talk in my book about the initiation, especially also the Vedanti, who's weaving through me very strongly through all the different forms of creative expression. How did the Norn come to you, and how did they weave in your life?
I had a personal connection with the Norns, particularly through Oud for me for a long time. I worked with her a lot personally, and I used to journey to the well, to the well of Weird, and really just to learn from them, to sort of receive wisdom from them. And she was my really early teacher in that. A lot of focus on understanding the nature of the world tree and the nature of Weird at that time, because that's what I really wanted to know about. I really wanted to understand how the waters flow, and what the role of the Norns is in, how can you read the waters, how can you experience them, the work that they do with the clay to sort of renew the outside of the world tree. They gather the clay from the banks, as I understand it, of the Well of Weird, and they put it on the world tree. And for me, that was an act that was particularly sacred to Oud. And as I always think of it as being the preciousness of memory and heritage that is needed for us in the present moment. So there's a healing that comes through. And that really informed the work that I then did with my own shamanic work that I then later went on to teach. So I really started to work very intensively with the Norns when I moved into, I trained as a past life regression therapist. I was highly suspicious of, no such thing as past lives at all. And once I'd done my first ever past life regression, I was a bit like, oh, there is. There definitely is. So obviously I had to go to the Norns and talk to them about that as well, and they became the patrons of my work in that regard. And we work very much with the concept of threads. So when we would do past life regression, we would ask the Norns for their blessing, and we would use thread that you would follow back through your current life into your past lives. So it would be this guided journey, and you would just feel at what point you needed to sort of stop with your thread and move into that past life experience. So again, that was very strongly with Oud. She was the teacher for me in that regard, but I could feel the presence of Skuld and Fathandi much more strongly at that point. So when I had completed my own shamanic training, particularly around cord cutting, which is a sort of traditional shamanic practice, but not necessarily from, I didn't know it from the northern tradition. I was taught it through the shamanic tradition that I had trained in, which stems from the work of Sandra Ingerman.
Yeah, no, very great shaman. Yeah,
wonderful. So I wanted to go in and look at that, and that was when Skuld came in for me, and she became much more the patron of the cord cutting work, which is done sort of physically with the body. So okay, which cords are no longer serving you, that you might be attached to past experiences, or to people who you no longer should be having that be an energetic exchange with them. So she was my patron for that, and I discovered that with Skuld, she is not just interested in cutting the threads, she does a lot of work with untangling, with when we've got ourselves in a bit of a fix. And I always think of it as, you've got the Gibo rune, and like those are promises that are made and gifts given and exchange, and we all make promises from an act of we want to do it. We don't tend to make promises that we really don't want to make. It's like, yes, I'm going to do this in the moment. but sometimes we overcommit on what we can actually achieve. You know, we're a little bit idealistic. And for me, then the
Oh,
Gita
yes.
changes and it turns into the North is rune of necessity, and it's like it's become a knot instead of the balanced promise, because that tension has been pulled. So that's when you have to revisit it, and Scald comes in at that point. You know, North is being her rune, and she's like, right, this is either something that, yes, you have to go through, the knot is there and it's supposed to be there, and it's actually it's now strengthening, or no, that was just the wrong thing to do. So we either have to sort of disentangle that, or do some cutting. So she came in for me with that side of healing work. And my strongest relationship with Fathandi comes through seed practice. So I work in a circle that we used to meet very, very regularly, and now we're sort of dispersed all across, you know, too far apart to do as much practice as we would like. I have done some this year, but not as much as I would like. But we did do an awful lot of seed work, and very experimental, you know, really focused on the work with the Norns. And each Norn would be a patron of one person in the circle. There's sort of these roles that we would take within Seed. And Thandi was the patron of the song. And we would build our space with song, and we would hold the space with song, and we would hold the journeying. You know, the other person who was actually conducting the journey would be held by the song that the person was creating. So we would have these roles were very clearly defined. And Fathandi was the patron of the singer for us. And we could all really feel it. You know, it was like the song was being sung, but a lot of time the person who was singing would be moving at the same time. And we were like, oh, you know that you're actually weaving something there, don't you? You're weaving and you're spinning, and there's a lot of movement with the hands. So yeah, I still do that in closed group. One day, who knows, that might be shared more, but at the moment,
so it's not possible for others to join or anything. There's no information for.
Not at this point, just because it doesn't have the same level of structure. If you look at somebody like Katie Gerard, who I have trained with, is wonderful and amazing, and she wrote the book on Seed.
Ja, Semi, ich werde gerade interviewt.
She's got two books. I can't remember their exact names. There's one on Seed, and there's one Seed, the Gate is Open. I want to call it that, but it's an excellent book, and she lays out really clearly a great way to structure a seed rite and to perform it in a traditional classic sense with the roles and how they work. What I'm describing was much more experimental, so it was probably quite unique to the people who are sort of involved in doing that. So it's not necessarily a technique that could be passed on. But what I can imagine us doing in future would be to look at the specific techniques that we used within that circle around singing and weaving, and bringing that together. So,
oh, that would be so exciting! I'm very interested.
Maybe something for the future. I shall think on it. That I know that the Norns are whispering to me at the moment about, you know, something to be shared later in 2020. So I shall look at that as a potential topic.
Certainly very interested. Also, maybe you know the 13 grandmothers.
Could you say that again?
The Council of the 13.
Oh, my internet connection has become unstable.
Yes, you've just been breaking up. What was your question?
I couldn't hear what you
just
said.
asked me.
Yes, I couldn't hear what you said. Repeat it.
For me, the Norns most recently also appeared with this wisdom messages from the 13 grandmothers. there's a council of the 13 grandmothers from all around the world. And for me, it was very, very strange to discover that there's no one, for example, from Siberia or from Kazakhstan, from Mongolia, like where my roots lie. So the Norns, whilst I was writing also my book, were like giving me the message that is also like a call to get together the weavers, like the wise women who specifically, like the Norns, hold the threads and build a circle of weavers who are really literally start to weave the new. Very similar like the grandmothers,
Yes.
but also to actually take the thread in the hands and to do it, to manifest it, because there are different forms of wisdom sharings, of course, as there are different people around the world. But I received the message from the Norns especially to start weaving the new and working with those different threads, which are the ancestral threads from the past, but also if we are connected with our unique essence, we are also weaving the new. And this is very important at this time. That's what I'm receiving
I
from the
think
Norns.
I think you're absolutely right. Maybe that's why thinking about the when I talked about the clay from the Well of Weird, and the Norns for me are then that weaving process is the birthing of the new, and the bringing the clay to the tree is bringing some of the old, what needs to come through. That's ancient wisdom still needs to be there, but it's being shaped all of the time.
Yes, it's being shaped from the weird.
Yes.
Can you tell me more? How do you perceive and live the weirding way?
Well, I think for me it's evolving all of the time. No, it's evolving all of the time. The the idea of the breath in and out for me is very much, I think about that now in terms of that's the unwinding and the reimagining of the threads. Constantly there's that constant flow in and constant flow out, and I talk about that with the Perth row room, which for me is very much the Well of Weird. That sometimes that it overflows, it overflows, and there's a bit of a flood and things get drawn back into the well and then they flow back out again. And I don't know, I think the only thing I could say for me, what's coming to me with weird, is I work with the idea of a woven soul, that we're not sort of little distinct individual beings who just sort of, one person's over here and one person's over there, and we're actually all connected. And those threads of connection are not bound by time. Time is more like the loom upon which the tapestry is being woven all of the time. It's not we're not just in the present moment. The present moment is everything. So we're being impacted all of the time by things that happened in the past and things that will happen in the future. And every shift that we make as an individual ripples out through the waters of weird. So that's the maybe that the quickest effect is that rippling motion. So every time someone has that really profound experience and they come more into center with themselves and they realize their purpose more profoundly and they take those next steps on the path, those ripples connect through every aspect of our own lives in the past, but also through every aspect of everybody else's lives eventually. Because that's why, for me, the woven soul, we bring certain things of ourselves into the current lifetime, but I believe that there are bits of me that I've left behind that aren't relevant to me in this lifetime that I might reconnect with later. But weird flows whatever is needed to us. It doesn't sort of say, oh, this is the present moment, so I can't go there, I'm from the past. that is how change occurs across time and space and beyond those boundaries, is through the motion of weird. Does that make any sense at all, what I've just said?
Well, to me, it certainly does. I mean, I've written the whole book about the weirding way. This is like, yeah, the ever becoming
Yes.
from the present moment. And it's always in flow. And whatever we put our intention on, and that's how we create our own reality. So for me, weird is the void, is not like the womb of all existence, where everything gets born out from, or there's the dark matter, the dark, which the whole universe is made up of this dark matter. This, yeah, and we get born from the dark matter. Every seed planted, like ourselves, we are also like stars. Destiny is also in Greek the fallen star. We are born in the dark, and then, yeah, our life purpose is to reach their full potential. And I think this is in every moment. If we send ourselves in the weird, for me, it's like our attention and presence in the present moment births something new at the old times.
Yes.
And that's what makes life so precious and so magical. In every moment is a magical alchemical process.
Yes. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I feel that. No, I think that the depths of weird are far greater than any one of us can sort of fully conceptualize, but we can just keep working at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I don't think so at this point. Just, yeah, come and visit my website whenever you want to, and I will endeavor to keep on offering you things. And thank you so much for talking to me. No, it's been really lovely, really lovely. I'm very excited to see more coming from your website too, and from your lovely book.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for holding the threads together. And like in Russian, it's like благодарю, with many blessings.
Oh, yes. I love that. Благодарю.
Thank you.